So here's Lucifer with the demon of the forsaken spirit. But then Lucifer in Latin means the light bringer. Lux is the light, fair is bringer. So the idea is, out of self-torture, we will come into a real sense of what justice is, which, to piggyback on what you were saying, Susie, has nothing to do with revenge or harming another as a way to heal myself. So, Emily, would you like to complete that adventure?
Sure. The names of the devil or the other onto whom I'm projecting that I will hide, repress, and deny. I see. They're quite revealing. So, yeah, I can feel that, how I project that onto the other once I see the other. Once translated, their meanings illuminate the creation of 6 days of victimhood. The Latin name, Lucifer, for Lightbringer, is the 6th day of the stage, or 6th day or stage. It is the source of a spirit so forsaken that it goes into self-torture. Ah, if I could only know that I am made in the divine image of justice, I would not feel guilty about anything and would not need to torture myself in order to do penance.
Yeah, so what are your thoughts on that last sentence? If I could only know that I'm made in the divine image of justice, I would not feel guilty about anything. Isn't that an interesting take? Not feel any guilt. I'm wrong. I'm not innocent. I'm guilty. And being not guilty, I would not need to torture myself as a way of penance. How does that strike you, Emily?
Um, that's very interesting. It's is if I could clarify, is that like if I'm decided I'm guilty, then I'm guilty kind of thing?
Yes, and remember that, well, maybe we don't need to change page. Guilt is the 5th day of the victim.
Mm-hmm.
And guilt is a lie when I understand that I'm not the doer. I just think I am. So that goes back to what Anna was saying. Well, what about murder? Is that acceptable? Well, that's the whole story of Cain, whose letter reorganizes canny to mean innocent, even if I were to commit a murder. This is the situation I created to end the guilt and come into omnipotence, and then to end the self-torture and approach what justice really is.
I have something to comment on this.
Sure.
Earlier you asked Emily about, guilty and innocence, and what if we are both, and it's perfectly fine to accept them. We are both guilty and we are both innocent, and those are both two feelings that, could represent us, and understand that it's both fine because it's part of the whole. They're both fine because they are part of the whole.
Well, yes. When I attach to the thought that I did it, I am the one who committed murder, then only guilt comes. So is guilt an opposite of innocence? In our culture, it is. So when you plead, you either plead guilty or innocent, and those are opposites. But in the space where we are opening to the love that has no opposite, then being innocent is a much greater way of being than just the opposite of being guilty. Anna, can you hear
Yes,
that?
oh yeah, of course. I would rather, like, feel innocent than feel guilty. That, like, those are two, like, it's pretty straight. It's like it's better to feel, I don't know, love than to feel disengaged or hatred or whatnot.
Yeah. And I will go to the wisdom of Ecclesiastes 2:13, whose traditional translation is completely off. The translation of Ecclesiastes 2:13, if you Google it, is, and I saw that wisdom is greater than folly and light greater than darkness. And what I'm hearing you say is, and I saw that innocence is greater than guilt. But that's not what Ecclesiastes says at all. Ecclesiastes says, and I saw that the wisdom, that greater is the wisdom that comes out of folly, and greater the light that comes out of darkness. So I could continue. And I saw that greater is the innocence that comes out of guilt. And in that understanding is Cain, a being that took a maximal out of guilt. And here it says, my punishment is greater than I can bear. The maximum out of guilt. In order to be free of the lie and the illusion of guilt. And to know that no matter what happens, no matter what it looks like on the form, which we are not just 3D beings, we are God, we are divine, we are supernatural, we are unlimited. At that level, there's only innocence.
Yeah, it's an innocence that has no opposite.
Exactly. Totally. So that's what we can up into, and as we up into it, we know what justice is. Because then we're not like, they shouldn't have abused me the way they abused me. Well, yes, they did abuse you.
And it goes so far to say, as any other justice by any other name is not justice, because if it's not sourced in an innocence that is beyond opposites, then the justice is a reparation for karmic deeds.
Exactly. And that is really challenging in our conditioning because we're taught opposites. So guilt, no good. Innocence, good. And I'm guilty somewhere.
I read some, I saw a conversation about two people in the kind of like luminaries, but they were saying that essentially as long as we keep killing, let's say, I'll use a word that pedophiles, if we keep killing them and condemning them, that those emotions and feelings will never release from the earth plane, like kind of like insinuating that those people have to be treated as like somebody would have been treated that has trauma inside them and go through psychoanalysis and self-reflection and that those emotions essentially, as long as like we keep perpetuating this, if we keep killing the pedophiles, those will keep reappearing on the earth plane.
Exactly.
Take like it's very challenging, and I see like after that I was seeing people fighting in the comments, how can you say this, you're excusing pedophilia. You're not, I mean, I understand it, it's not excusable, but it's just like any other trauma.
So what you resist persists. It's a law of nature. Okay, that is something real. All of the righteous judgment we have about right and wrong, that's not helpful. How I know that murder can be right? Because it happened. It's God's will. Pedophile, sin. So that's part of dealing, whether we project it out, which is the meaning, as you know very well, since you're Greek, or you came from Greece. Diabellion, which gave the word diabolic, does mean projecting. So it's the pedophile, it's Trump, it's bring it on. It's all out there, and it's not. What can you do to de-Trump yourself?
Well, I have a question though, like I understand in the concept that, you know, these are just reflections that they have to, like, we have to embrace and start healing those wounds, that I will ever accept it as normal, like at least pedophilia or the, like I don't know that I can accept it as like, okay, it's okay that happened, because it's like I understand that hurting is okay, that it happens, but what is my role in protecting and defending the innocent?
Okay, Anna, can you just be responsible for the harm that you do to yourself and others before going into changing the world and redeeming those that have that kind of trauma?
100%, yes.
That's it. You see, anything else is a distraction from your work. This way you don't have to heal.
Yeah.
Okay? So just stay with the harm that you may still do to yourself.
Yes.
Stay there. Okay?
Mm.
Thank you.
Yes.